In Ely, some are singing an old song. It's called Not in Our Backyard.
Do we take that chance here? Is that okay? This is the fight of our lifetime.
But when that backyard contains one of the largest known deposits of copper, nickel, and cobalt in the world, others are playing a different tune.
This is the right mine for this region.
As the political winds shift, the possibility of hard rock mining near the Boundary Waters is back on the menu. 2 years ago, the Biden administration banned mining 250,000 acres outside the Boundary Waters. The Forest Service at the time said mining here would inevitably pollute the Boundary Waters. Mining experts disagree.
We're opening up mines in Minnesota.
And the Trump administration has vowed to reverse the ban and get America back underground. What are the odds that this is going to happen?
Highly likely.
And what's the time frame on it?
Soon.
Congressman Pete Stauber has introduced multiple times a bill to overturn the mining ban. There's no debate. The world needs these minerals to supply a modern economy. Anything with a wire, anything with a computer, anything with a battery is made with these metals. Currently, the U.S. relies on foreign sources for nearly half of the copper and more than half of the nickel and cobalt used in the country.
We have to use the facts and the science when we go forward and remove the political science.
Around summer, Ely is bustling.
Go Twin Cities!
But as mines closed over the decades, Ely's population dwindled, nearly half what it was in 1950.
There's a lot of seasonal jobs. It's hard for families to, exist on.
Dean DeBeltz, a fourth-generation Ely resident, is helping to lead Twin Metals Minnesota's quest for a new mine.
I realized I had an opportunity to help shape something that we need. I believe we desperately need in this town.
Inside Twin Metals headquarters, we see what this fight is all about.
What we have here is core that's cut, laid out on the table, and where it looks like gold, those are the sulfides.
Sulfide forms when sulfur atoms chemically bind to metal atoms, in this case, mostly copper and nickel.
So this one is 3,198 feet below surface.
And that is what Twin Metals is after.
We take the sulfides out, they go with the concentrates.
But the treasure is also the trouble. When sulfides are dug up and exposed to oxygen and water, they can turn into sulfuric acid. Any leak over time can be catastrophic to a clean environment. It is known as acid mine or acid rock drainage, something the Environmental Protection Agency estimates has polluted 40% of the country's rivers and 50% of the nation's lakes.
Is there a way to pull those minerals out without damaging
Definitely.
the waterway?
Definitely, and we have to prove that through a thorough environmental review.
How would they do it? And just how close would a mine be to the Boundary Waters? Let's go to the map. Twin Metals' mine proposal from 2019 targets what's called the Machuri deposit here, located between Ely and Babbitt, 5 miles from the southwest edge of the Boundary Waters wilderness area. The project site right next to Birch Lake and the South Cowish River, which flows into the Boundary Waters. The site plan shows this is where they will dig underground, unlike open pit iron mines. Trucks would enter the mine through 2 tunnels, digging out different zones called stopes, which are like the hallways and rooms of an underground hotel. They will blast and recover ore between 400 and 4,500 feet underground. Twin Metals says that ore will be crushed below the surface to avoid dust and noise pollution, with a conveyor feeding that ore into a covered plant on the surface, where it is further processed and separated. The metal concentrates are stored for shipment. Half of the leftover rock goes back to fill in the holes. The other half would be dehydrated and stacked here on the surface.
What is the potential for acid rock drainage at the site?
In the studies that we've done and the studies that the DNR has done on Duluth complex material, it's virtually zero. I mean, it doesn't exist.
What does exist is the need for work and a small fortune of benefits for the state.
This is essentially a library of our mineral deposit.
Kathy Grahl, also with Twin Metals Minnesota, says the mine would employ 750 people with 1,500 spin-off jobs in the area, hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes, plus royalties to the state school trust fund.
It's estimated that the mineral resources that are in this region could add to that fund by $3 billion.
They hope the public will view the mine with an open mind.
And we've got to be more open to conversation and talking about what it actually is rather than stigmatizing someone and saying, no, it's bad. No matter what you do, it's going to be bad, because that's not what we're about.
Here in Ely, some people say most in town support the mine for its economic potential. Others will tell you that most in town are opposed to the mine for its potential damage to the boundary waters. Statewide, though, a recent Star Tribune poll found that 60% of registered voters in Minnesota are against the mine, with 22% for it. In downtown Ely,
Hi, Becky.
Hi, Becky, Chris.
the Save the Boundary Waters campaign is ramping up for another round in this fight.
I think mining has a place. But the important thing, the important fact, is where you allow mining. And in this particular place, we should not allow mining, not in the headwaters of the boundary waters.
Becky Rahm, a third-generation Ely resident, is the national chair of that campaign. Despite Twin Metals' promises,
That's the path that pollution would flow.
Rahm and other environmentalists believe a sulfide mine at this site would irreparably harm the boundary waters.
Mines are approved based on predicted performance. Everything works perfectly. Our mitigation works perfectly, right? And then you see how it performs in actual mines. And studies show that if the mine is near water, they're wrong. Those modeling results are wrong 9 out of 10 times.
A new study from the parent organization of Save the Boundary Waters examined public pollution data from 8 modern mines in the U.S., 5 of which are underground. The data shows all 8 mines degraded surface water downstream. 7 exceeded their pollution permits for groundwater. For instance, at the Kensington mine in Alaska, sulfate levels increased 50-fold downstream of the mine. At Bear Track mine in Idaho, mercury levels found in brook trout tripled, making them unsafe to eat by EPA standards.
Right now we're on the South Coosaway River.
From the water, we get a different view, where the river meets Birch Lake. It's also home to 43 residences and 3 resorts.
Right there is where the tailings facility would be. Instead of looking at that beautiful cliff and the red and white pines on top of the cliff, you'd be looking at a 300-foot waste pile of crushed tailings that would be there forever.
What would you need to be convinced that they could do it without pollution?
They can't do it without destroying the landscape and impacting the ecosystem.
You think it's
Period.
impossible, period?
It's a mine. I mean, you have to be realistic. And I say that because I know that every single modern mine in the United States is currently degrading water quality. Technology just doesn't exist.
So yeah, this is our integrated sampler.
Save the Boundary Waters doesn't just talk water, they also test it. Their monitoring led to the EPA designating Birch Lake as impaired for sulfate. The higher levels can be measured 12 miles upstream. The pollution, they believe, came from 2 nearby iron mines.
We've sampled every tributary in this watershed, so we know for a fact that the sulfate is coming from the North Shore mine in the Dunca pit.
As for the money and the jobs at stake, some argue this mine misses the mark.
Right now, it's just too big of a risk.
For years, Congresswoman Betty McCollum has tried to permanently ban copper sulfide mining near the headwaters of the boundary waters.
Just because economically right now we put a big price tag in this state and in this country on copper, wars will be fought over water.
In 2018, a Harvard economist independently conducted a study on the mining ban near the boundary waters. It concluded mining would offer a temporary boost to the regional economy, but over time would not be sustainable, becoming a net negative to the overall economy. The study said not mining in the region would result in up to 4,600 more jobs and $900 million more in personal income over 20 years.
Do you think mining will inevitably happen there?
It'll never happen because the science is so strong on the damage that this would do to this great place. And I just don't think the American people will let that happen.
What happens next could be decided in court. But for now, one of America's most visited wilderness areas remains at the center of one of the state's fiercest debates. Chris Arapsky, KARE 11 News, Ely.